This is Mungo Darkmatter, and welcome to Daylight Savings Time. All right, Daylight Savings Time is actually a holiday. A lot of people don't know this now. It's actually a holiday to remind us how stupid politicians are and how stupid, in particular, Congress is. Now, every time Congress makes a law, I think to myself, okay, how are they going to mess up my life now? Years back, they made a kind of energy-saving bill of some sort, which seemed like a pretty good idea. And what was the result of it? Well, for a few years there, PCs were going into sleep mode, suspend mode, coma mode, shutting off, not really functioning really well. And you didn't know, like they'd go into limbo sometimes because they were trying to save energy. Well, you know, we can blame the PC manufacturers on that. They got that straightened out, I guess. But, you know, it was a side effect of the law. Maybe it's give them a little more time to figure it out. I don't know. Then the next effect of that is Xerox machines. You know, they use a lot of energy now. So we ought to fix something about that. Well, the problem with the Xerox machines is once they put energy-saving modes on the Xerox machines, people said, well, why bother to turn them off? They go into sleep mode. Well, they're using energy in sleep mode, more energy than they would if they were off. So nobody turned them off at night, and the result was they were actually consuming more energy, which was, you know, opposite to the purpose of the bill that was written by Congress. See, pretty much everybody in Congress needs to go to remedial math because every time I check their math, it's wrong. Maybe they just need somebody to check their math. All right, well, they weren't, you know. We know they weren't A students in math if you look at anything they do. If you look at the budget, well, let's not even go there today. Another thing that Congress did few years back was they said, hey, you know, well, it was more than a few years, maybe 10 years. They said, these toilets are awful. They're using 5 gallons of water. We think they should use 3 gallons. That would be a lot less water. Now, the math on that part is right. If you're using 3 gallons instead of 5 gallons, then you're using less water. That's pretty good. Pretty good. Elementary math, not junior high or high school yet, but elementary. What was the problem with that? Well, when the lower capacity toilets first came out, a lot of them you had to flush twice. So that's 6 gallons instead of 5, isn't it? So you actually made a law that increased the amount of water used in toilets. Although, I must say now they have some newer toilets that actually work with 3 gallons, so it worked out in the end, but we were miserable for like 10 years. So that's another brilliant thing they do. They come up with this stuff like, well, we'll make a law, and you know, engineering and physics will have to catch up with it. Now, for the most brilliant thing Congress did is they've actually extended daylight savings time, which is even more brilliant than coming up with it in the first place, because daylight savings time is maybe saving us, according to one study, 0.02% energy. That's 0.02% of energy that it's actually saved, which isn't much. And you know, I'm all for saving any amount of energy you can, but some places it actually increases the amount of energy because of heating and cooling bills. Because, you know, if you're sleeping, you may have the temperature down. If you're at home, you're going to have to adjust the temperature so it's comfortable there. Whereas, like, if you go to work, you may adjust the temperature down and such. So Indiana actually was one of the states, along with Arizona, that said we're not going along with daylight savings time. And so, but in 2006, Indiana said, you know what? Let's go with the daylight savings time. It's so complicated being, you know, the odd state out. And when they did a study of its impact, they discovered that residential houses were paying 1 to 4% more on energy than they were before daylight savings time. So there's another example of how you can really waste money with daylight savings time. But the worst thing is, the really real reason why Congress came up with this idea for daylight savings time is because they basically just want to annoy us and make our lives miserable. At least that's what you would think from many of their laws, which don't do what they say they're going to do and inconvenience us. So, first of all, it like disrupts our sleep pattern. You know, most people in the United States aren't getting enough sleep in the first place. But Congress says, you know what, let's disrupt their sleep pattern. Now, nobody really complains about it in the fall because it's fall ahead. Or fall back, I mean. Fall back, spring forward. Fall ahead. Fall back, spring forward. So if we fall back in the fall so we get an extra hour of sleep, nobody's going to complain about that. But in the spring, we spring forward and lose the hour of sleep, and that's when everybody notices it. And even changing the time an hour forward or back, it's going to take you a while to get used to it. Either way. So it messes up sleep patterns. Well, another thing is, you know, my computer is hooked up to the internet. I've got a cell phone that's hooked up to a network. And those change their times automatically. Yeah, I remember checking to see if the time fell back on my cell phone at 2 a.m. and stayed at 2 a.m. when it hit 3 a.m. or whatever. But now I'm kind of saying, you know what, the computer and the cell phone are going to be right, so we'll change everything the next day. Well, now I have various things going on, and part of them because of Congress, they changed daylight savings time, so there are some devices that don't know about it, you know. Computers you can update. Older devices that may have changed automatically or whatever are just kind of like, I'm going to change the old, you know, whenever it used to be, sorry. So then I have to change them back manually or whatever. And then you've got devices that are just totally stupid and don't change anyway, so you have to change them. And I got this atomic clock, you know, and this atomic clock is supposed to change the time automatically, and it used to, but it doesn't seem to anymore, you know, and I'm not really sure. And I look at the clock and I say, you know, why don't you change anymore? Well, you know, baby, I can't change no more. It's just, you know, I'm not into that scene no more. I don't dig it. I really, you know, I used to change, you know, but now, you know, I'm too big time to do that now. So anyway, the clock won't change, you know, it just stays the way it is, you know. I've stood on the roof with it. I've, you know, done everything. So I have to manually change this thing that's supposed to sync up with the atomic clock, which never does. In fact, I know other people with these same clocks and they never seem to work anyway. A lot of times it has to do with the fact that it might not be getting the radio wave, but I'm not sure where you have to be for them to actually get the radio wave anymore. Just doesn't seem to work for me. So anyway, I've got all these clocks, and well, it's going to be probably a few months before I get them all synced up, and there'll be some that I never sync up because I go, you know what? You can just change back in the fall. You know, you're all right for the fall time, so when it's fall again, you'll be right again. So you'll be right part of the time and wrong part of the time. I'm just not going to change you. Then there are, you know, the clocks that are on like the microwaves or whatever other appliances. Too many things have clocks on them. And there'll be, you go around, you spend all day switching them back, and the electricity will go out and reset them anyway. So there are a series of lights, or not lights, a series of clocks that are just flashing around in here that have like 12 a.m., 12 a.m., 12 a.m. And they're going to stay that way because I set it. I go off to work during the day, I come home, and there was a little power hour fluctuation, and it's flashing 12 a.m., 12 a.m., 12 a.m. Not going to play that game. I'm not going to switch you every day or every week or ever whatever. I'm not going to go around, you know. It's not like when we used to have candles instead of lights, when I'd have to go and put out all the candles or light all the candles at night. We have light switches now. If you're flashing 12 a.m., you're a VCR or a microwave, I don't care. I really don't. So unless I really need you to be telling the time, you're going to be flashing whatever you are. Same thing when the daylight savings time changes. I'm going to probably leave you where you are. You'll be right half of the time. Now, Ben Franklin came up with the idea of daylight savings time, but his idea was to save candles because candles were expensive and to save people's eyesight because it was really hard to read by candles. Well, we don't use candles anymore. We use lights. And get yourself some compact fluorescent lights or get yourself some of the newer LED light bulbs that don't use up as much energy. Compact fluorescent light bulbs actually use a quarter of the energy that an incandescent bulb of equivalent brightness uses. So you actually save 75% of the energy with a compact fluorescent bulb. So get rid of daylight savings time. Let's change to compact fluorescent bulbs. But once again, another brilliant law the Congress made. They said, let's get rid of all the incandescents and have people use compact fluorescents. Well, that might have worked. We're never sure what will happen now because they repealed that now. So they, you can still use incandescent bulbs and use up 4 times the amount of energy, but they're saving you 0.02% energy, or they're saving somebody 0.02% energy because apparently residential is up 1 to 4% in Indiana. So they're not saving you anything or doing you any favors. So remember, daylight savings time is the holiday to remember that your politicians and your people in Congress need remedial math classes and aren't very smart. This has been Mungo Darkmatter. And this is daylight savings time. Go out and take a walk. And change your smoke detector batteries.